keeping you informed and engaged. Now more than ever. This is Seculo. And now your host, Logan Seculo.
Welcome back to Seculo. Jordan is now joining us, and Cece Heil in studio as well. We want to pivot this conversation to move off of Israel to talk about what's going on in America. And there's been some interesting developments with Google, who obviously owns YouTube, owns a lot of the platforms we're on here. Look, I think they provide some incredible resources for us. We can reach thousands of people because of them for pretty much no cost. It's amazing. However, there have been some interesting things as people start to search. They've been looking for, and look, this happened last time around. This happened during the election last time. The Google users searching for things like attempted assassination of President Trump have seen results fail to populate on the search engine. So when you type in and you see suggestions, so the suggestions started to talk about President Truman or Donald Reagan, thinking that you had problems. This is what's happening here. Now, Google spokesperson has come out and said, look, we didn't do anything. This was not manual. This is pretty much an AI-driven thing that was trying to keep people from searching for political violence, for horrific, events. So prior to the assassination attempt. However, we know this is one of the top trending stories. They need to be able to go in and fix this. And it doesn't quite all smell right, Jordan. We know that this has been an ongoing issue that the ACLJ has even been fighting against with big tech censorship.
No, I mean, are they saying that they don't want people looking up how to assassinate a president or how to assassinate Donald Trump? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, because there was an attempted assassination now a few weeks ago, and you should be able to look up all of the news about that, the hearings about that, the fact that there's been a Secret Service director fired because of that. I guess they voluntarily left their job, but we all know what that means in Washington, D.C. And we're still finding out bizarre information after each day. I mean, some of this I know we're going to get into in the next segment, Logan, about how much the Secret Service knew about this potential shooter being on site, and then still sending Donald Trump up on stage. This is when you realize, remember, we've seen a lot of emails where big tech is brought into Washington, D.C. and brought into the White House and basically told, we need you to do this. And you have to wonder if this is one of those situations, Logan, because they don't want people focusing on the Trump attempted assassination. They want people focusing on Harris and the fact that Biden is gone.
I mean, here's just to give you an understanding of how quickly Google does update, because they put on there, they made a statement saying, hey, we're working on improvements to ensure our systems are more up to date. Over the weekend, Robert Downey Jr. was announced that he is going to be playing Dr. Doom in the new Marvel cinematic series, the new Avengers movies. That is based on a comic called Impossible Iron Man, which a lot of people have been searching. If you just type in IMP, it fills in Impossible Iron Man, because so many people are searching for it right now. So their systems are up to date. So even if they're saying, hey, maybe it was a protection, we don't want people searching assassination attempts, we know that them saying that we don't keep things up to date is just simply not true, because no one was searching for a comic book from 7 years ago. People weren't searching for until the day before yesterday when this news broke. So we know that that is a bit of fudging the truth, because it's not exactly how we know how real-time Google updates, because they are, Alphabet is one of the most high-tech companies on the planet. So when you see this, you have to at least take a look at if you're being censored. And we are headed into the last minute of this segment. We're going to dive into this a little bit deeper. We're also going to dive into the news that, speaking of the assassination attempt, that the Secret Service and the police had some knowledge of this shooter quite a bit of time before. And we're going to discuss that. There was text messages that were released that show that they at least had marked them as a suspicious person in the audience. Someone who maybe didn't fit the bill. Maybe they're going through and sort of profiling who could be a suspicious person. The text messages were going in and out during this, well before the assassination attempt. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 1-800-684-3110. 1-800-684-3110. Of course, support the ACLJ during our Life and Liberty Drive. We'll be back in just a moment, but again, give me a call. Phone lines are open right now. So if you've ever want to hear your voice on the radio, this is it. Hear your voice on the radio. 1-800-684-3110. We'll be right back.
New Details now on that assassination attempt against the former president, now suggesting an earlier timeline than what authorities had claimed.
Text messages between local snipers show they noticed Thomas Matthew Crooks at 4:26 p.m., nearly 2 hours before the attempted assassination that would injure Trump, kill a man, and severely hurt 2 others. "You see me go out with my rifle," one of the snipers texted, "so he knows you guys are up there."
One of the counter snipers then took photos of Crooks, which were later exchanged in a group chat with a text message reading, quote, "I did see him with a rangefinder looking towards stage. FYI, if you want to notify Secret Service snipers to look out. I lost sight of him." These photos were reportedly relayed to the Secret Service, posted in a command center.
The Secret Service did receive the photos of Crooks, and they knew he was at the AJR building. So this is 26 minutes before he took his first shot. So we have that confirmed. We also have confirmed that the radios that local law enforcement gave the Secret Service sniper teams were never used by the Secret Service.
So how do you know if Greg's concerns about Crooks are being relayed properly?
We don't. We have to assume that when he put that information out to command, that command took that information and did something with it. We don't know if they did.
None of the concerns appears to have reached members of Trump's Secret Service detail. The Washington Post reports they've complained they were never made aware of the warnings.
There's a number of missteps here. It's not just one. The communications, I agree with the senator, the communications is a big part here. It appears as though they've identified this individual. It appears as though law enforcement was in charge of making sure that that structure was secure, but they weren't communicating, and they weren't communicating in real time. So we'll see what else the investigation plays out, whether it was poor planning, whether there wasn't enough resources, has been reported as well. So I think there's still a number of questions to be answered here.
Welcome back to Secular. We will be taking your phone calls. Thanks for holding. For some of you who have, 1-800-684-3110. Cece Heil joining us in studio as well. We did want to move this to the now we know nearly 100 minutes before President Trump took the stage in Butler, Pennsylvania, that ended up in that failed assassination attempt, that there were text messages between security saying things like that they noticed a man with long stringy hair sitting on a picnic table near the warehouse at 4:26. A text went out saying that he knows you guys are up there and monitoring, but it seemed like he became a person of interest. Again, 100 minutes or so before this assassination attempt. And I'll go to Jordan and get Cece's thoughts as well. Some of this has to have some consequences here. Obviously, we saw this, the head of the Secret Service step down. Is that good enough? Where do we draw that line?
Well, what I would like to know right away is they see a kid with a rangefinder. Right then, I mean, it's not like this is a far walk, Logan. We're talking 100 yards. Why did they not approach him? Right then. You say, hey, what are you range finding over here? There's nothing illegal about that technically, but that probably would have been it. That probably would have stopped from the shooting from occurring because he would have been scared off. But instead, they know we got a kid with a rangefinder. Then he's putting up a drone, a couple of days before. And, the Secret Service is on site more than the day of the event. So none of this makes any sense that all it does is really show that law enforcement was noticing this, but obviously the information either wasn't going to the right person, or it was going to like a phone number or like some kind of reporting number that isn't monitored correctly. And that's why members of Congress, I think, do have a role. There's the short-term role, which is, how on earth did this happen? Let's make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I want to make sure everyone know that 5:38, photos were shared in a group chat.
Right. That's disturbing.
That they had taken of who became the shooter. And then a text said, kid learning around building we are in. AGR, I believe it is. I see him with a rangefinder looking towards the stage. FYI, if you want to notify Secret Service snipers to look out because I lost sight of him. That was at 5:38. By 6:11, he would be killed by one of those snipers. So a good 25, 30 minutes there. Jordan, you got something?
Yeah, I just don't understand why they didn't immediately go approach him before Donald Trump took the stage. Well, even at 5:38, or send a message. If Donald Trump had already taken the stage, send a message to him or his Secret Service so they approach him on stage and say that he needs to come off the stage.
A massive communication breakdown.
This did not need to happen with the technology that we have in 2024. So Logan, I mean, we obviously there does need to be the short term, and there has been. The Secret Service director is out. I told you while we were at the Republican convention, she showed up to try to brief senators, and then they wouldn't answer any questions, and she is no longer the Secret Service director. But there's got to be something done, because I don't really care who becomes the next president of the United States. With the technology we have, if we're going to be the United States of America, we've got to be able to better secure our presidents so that they can still go out to the people and campaign and speak to the American people, because that's a horrible outcome if you have to just basically stop doing that. And what does it say about our country if it's too dangerous to do so because we're so partisan?
Right. CC, this was 25 minutes before he took stage, and one of our producers just puts very routine for the Secret Service to delay someone from taking the stage, especially a presidential candidate, from taking the stage as they assess any threats. Look, we saw President Trump spoke here in Nashville at the Bitcoin conference and was delayed, and they kind of half explained why he was delayed because they knew he was there. And they said it was because of the attack in Israel, because you're probably then saying, okay, we need to take a step back, reassess. But I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think it's, the fact that they had texts going back and forth, and the fact that they literally sent pictures of this young man. I mean, clearly they had identified that he was a threat. And the fact that they did not take action, that they didn't put more people around the building where he was kind of lurking, that they didn't have more people looking for him, that they didn't delay. I mean, that's the most disconcerting thing to me, is that they literally, obviously identified him as a threat, and they really didn't do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And phone lines are open right now. We have a lot of calls coming in. Let's go ahead and take one. Let's go to Phil, who is calling. Again, talk about the objectivity of the news media when you have these situations. Phil, you're on the air.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've been watching CNN the last week, and they're engaged in relentless attacks against Donald Trump. They are presenting their opinions as if they were facts. They are no longer a legitimate news outlet. They are a Marxist globalist propaganda platform.
I've seen some pretty interesting reports, Phil, that CNN and some of these other organizations have actually kind of put a hamper on some of the conversations that their journalists can have outside of the press. And I'm kind of conflicted. Part of me thinks that CNN saying, okay, we need a course correct here. Look, you saw what happened, the very coordinated event that led to Joe Biden dropping out. They don't want their news anchors going on and having those kind of open conversations, whether it's CNN or MSNBC or even Fox for that matter. You don't see them doing a lot of appearances outside of their official capacity. Now, somewhat you go, well, good. They're journalists. They should just be reporting the news, doing what they do. But we know, Jordan specifically, we know that's not how it really is in 2024. It's not like what we're watching on any of the major platforms is purely fact-based news reporting. It's now probably 90% opinion, 10% news.
Yeah, you've got to, again, go to your trusted outlets. Go to people that you trust. And when I say that, I mean trust their opinion almost, because what they're going to do is they're going to take news and they're going to have a spin on it. And I think, listen, there's some news, like financial news. I mean, the stock market's up or the stock market is down. But then they will go and explain to you, well, why is it? And why is the interest rate like this? And why aren't we getting a cut? So there are some things that are very straightforward and that you can know they're in the news that you don't need someone giving you a spin on. But usually, even when it's like that, the next statement you're getting is going to be a spin. It's going to be a spin by someone saying, and that's because the policies of blah, blah, blah administration are bad. Or it's going to say, that's because the policies of the administration have been great and we're going to continue to grow. So listen, that's the world we live in. That is not just unique to the United States of America. Opinion journalism and the news have crossed over. And Logan, I will tell you, every time one of these, a holier than thou journalist tries to leave that world and says, I'm going to create a kind of opinion free and it's just going to be reporting, it always becomes just as maybe not just as partisan, but just as much their opinion too. It's just their opinion on other people's writing. So I think it's always been tough, and I'm not sure there's ever been news without opinion. I just think we know it now.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, if you watch even your local news, you can tell the spin that's coming from it, even if you think it's a very generic piece. You know, though, where the message is coming from. I'd love to hear from you. You can talk about that. You can talk about Google throttling Trump searches. We could talk about Israel or so much more, because I like to take as many calls as I can in the last segment of the broadcast, which is next, coming up. So in about 2 minutes, we're going to start taking your phone calls at 1-800-684-3110. Have your voice heard today. Give us a call, 1-800-684-3110. I see the phone lines lighten up as we speak, because we are in that final stretch. Just a few days left in our July Life and Liberty Drive, and we're still short of our goal. Today, we are mobilizing our offices around the world, whether that's in Jerusalem or America, to help either defend Israel or to defend your values, your conservative Christian values. And you can have your gifts doubled today at aclj.org. In just 2 days for Israel, we are filing what may be the most important legal brief we've ever filed in defense of Israel, and you can help stand up with us. You can help us keep us in the fight. Have your gift doubled before our Life and Liberty Drive is over, which is at the end of this month. The Life and Liberty Drive for the month of July ends. When you support the work of the ACLJ, you stand with Israel. These are very important days for us, Jordan. Again, of course, $10 becomes $20, $20 becomes $40, so on and so on. And ACLJ is built on the backbone of those individual small donations. Obviously, if you want to make a large donation, we very much would appreciate it. But that is not the core. The core is individuals standing up with as much or little as they can to put their money where their mouth is.
We need your financial support, folks. I mean, to do all of this work that we do, whether it is here in the United States, whether it's the legal work that we commit to in the cases that take years long to fight to make sure that our constitutional rights are preserved and protected in the United States, whether it is cases around the world at the International Criminal Court, or opening offices around the world, or opening offices around the United States. Listen, you are supporting with your donations a first-class legal and government affairs operation at the American Center for Law and Justice, and you heard Cece talk about American Center for Law and Justice Action, working with members of Congress on Israel as well. That's what you're supporting with your dollars to the ACLJ, defending your rights, religious liberty rights, your freedom, your constitutional rights. Donate today. Double the impact of your donation at aclj.org. That's aclj.org.
Yep, do that today. Give us a call. Also, phone lines are jammed, but they'll open up at 1-800-684-3110. But if you have a minute, even before the show is over, I encourage you to go make that donation, as Jordan said. If you're watching online, you've seen the QR code, go to aclj.org. Do it right now. We're back in just a minute with your voices.
New details now on that assassination attempt against the former president, now suggesting an earlier timeline than what authorities had claimed.
Text messages between local snipers show they noticed Thomas Matthew Crooks at 4:26 p.m., nearly 2 hours before the attempted assassination that would injure Trump, kill a man, and severely hurt 2 others. "You see me go out with my rifle," one of the snipers texted, "so he knows you guys are up there."
One of the counter snipers then took photos of Crooks, which were later exchanged in a group chat with a text message reading, quote, "I did see him with a rangefinder looking towards stage. FYI, if you want to notify Secret Service snipers to look out. I lost sight of him." These photos were reportedly relayed to the Secret Service, posted in a command center.
The Secret Service did receive the photos of Crooks, and they knew he was at the AJR building. So this is 26 minutes before he took his first shot. So we have that confirmed. We also have confirmed that the radios that local law enforcement gave the Secret Service sniper teams were never used by the Secret Service.
So how do you know if Greg's concerns about Crooks are being relayed properly?
We don't. We have to assume that when he put that information out to command, that command took that information and did something with it. We don't know if they did.
None of the concerns appears to have reached members of Trump's Secret Service detail. The Washington Post reports they've complained they were never made aware of the warnings.
There's a number of missteps here. It's not just one. The communications, I agree with the senator, the communications is a big part here. It appears as though they've identified this individual. It appears as though law enforcement was in charge of making sure that that structure was secure, but they weren't communicating, and they weren't communicating in real time. So we'll see what else the investigation plays out, whether it was poor planning, whether there wasn't enough resources, has been reported as well. So I think there's still a number of questions to be answered here.
Back to Seculo now. We hear from you. We're going to take your phone calls. Let's kick it off. There has been some news about the Supreme Court and obviously some announcements from President Biden about some potential changes to the Supreme Court. We're actually going to break that down in detail tomorrow on the broadcast. We want to make sure we had the time to really go through it and walk you through it. But let's go to Tina, who's calling on line 1 in Oklahoma. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Tina. I just saw the NTD news flash about Joe Biden presenting the proposal for making changes to the Supreme Court, and that upsets me because I know he's trying to fight against the immunity they gave President Trump, but he's also trying to get rid of some of the conservative people in the Supreme Court. But I wanted to know, what can we do as citizens to deal with this, because it affects the whole country. And I'm very concerned about that. If President Joe Biden can't even finish his tenure as the president and he has been failing our country and he can't qualify to run for president, he shouldn't be allowed to make any changes to anything, especially not the Supreme Court.
Tina, let's get an understanding of that from Jordan and from Cece. I'll get both of your views back-to-back, lawyers who understand this more than I do. Jordan, go ahead with your thoughts.
Remember, these changes have to either be made by Congress or constitutional amendment. Congress can do some things by statute. They can add members to the Supreme Court. They get to set that up. What they can't do is change that the Supreme Court terms are lifetime appointments. So that would have to be done through constitutional amendment. So while you could pack the court with congressional action, let's look at Congress right now. You think there's any way that's getting through? Absolutely not. I mean, there's no way. It's not going to go through Republican House. It's not going to go through then the Democrat Senate, with barely hanging on. So Joe Biden is like throwing this out there as things he's really committed to doing before he leaves the presidency. I think he's just trying to talk about anything relevant because he lame ducked himself very early. Even for someone who only serves one term, you're not considered lame duck when you're running for a second term. You're considered lame duck if you either on the end of your second term or if you lost the November election and you've got just like a couple months left. He's now lame duck for a long time. I don't know if that's great for the country, Logan. I've gone back and forth on is it great to have him there focused just on kind of like running the country, not like he's been doing a good job of that, or should Harris really be in place and almost forced to do that job because he's already admitted that he's not really capable of being the president moving forward into 2025. And so are we getting the best that we can, even if we're not talking about, Republican, Democrat, but the best of American leadership that we could get based on who we've got available to us at this time?
Cece, I'll get your thoughts.
Yeah, and I think maybe he just makes the statement to rile up his voter base because he can't do this unilaterally. Just like Jordan said, if he's going to change the term, it'd have to be done by a constitutional amendment. And right now, yes, the Constitution says that a Supreme Court justice serves for good behavior, which ends up being basically life. And so that would take an amendment. That's not something that Joe Biden can just say it's going to happen.
Yeah. All right, let's continue on. Bill's calling on line 4. He's an ACLJ champion. ACLJ champions, those are people who support the ACLJ on a monthly recurring basis, and they get priority treatment on phone calls. So he called in, and he's up next. Bill, you're on the air.
Hi. I was calling about Christopher Wray's hearing where unsolicited he made the comment, we don't even know if Trump's ear was hit with a bullet or a piece of glass or shrapnel. That started really a scandal in the news, went on for a couple of days. And Friday night, the FBI had to come out and admit that President Trump was shot.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the FBI came out pretty quickly, actually, after that hearing and said, no, we will make sure we know he was definitely shot with a bullet, whether it was grazed, whether, whatever it was still, it happened. And that, of course, became a social media buzz thing, as you've seen, I don't know, someone's ear progressively heal over a couple weeks and makeup and all the things you can do. But for some reason, that became a controversy. That's going to be the problem, Jordan, going forward, is that these are the little kind of, they're not going to be necessarily the news stories you hear, but they're going to be the offhanded remarks that are made from a Christopher Wray, or offhanded by a CNN or an MSNBC, to start planting it in the viewer's head that maybe this was some sort of staged event.
Right. I really do think they Logan, when we talked about that Google story, then we talked about Christopher Wray trying to, who knows, it could have just been, shrapnel or something like that. I mean, like that makes it any better. I mean, it was an assassination attempt. It barely missed the president's head. It hit his ear. We were all there. We saw the amount of blood. We saw what happened. He's gone through it a number of times. But they are trying to make the switch to Harris, and they're going to do anything possible to make this attempted assassination something that was part of the Trump-Biden campaign.
Sure. All right, let's go ahead back to the phone calls. Let's go to Nancy in Texas on line 5, and I believe that will probably be our last call of the day, but we'll see. Stay on hold. We'll do our best. Nancy, you're on the air.
Hello, thank you. I am a champion.
Fantastic.
I love you guys.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I would have put you on earlier. Nancy, go ahead. You only hold 5 minutes. You know what? You got it. You're good.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to say that you were talking about the journalists and how they all report bias, and I have a liberal friend that I visited, and she was teaching English and journalism in college. And the class, I don't remember the exact name, but it was something about, presenting facts for a journalist, unbiased reporting. And yet their assignment in class was to choose a topic and pick a side and persuade. And I just feel like these schools are just teaching this and not teaching the kids how to.
Well, Nancy, as Jordan said, and not to cut you off, we're running out of time. As Jordan said, it doesn't really exist in modern day journalism. There is no, at least a bend. And as Jordan said, it probably was like that always. It's just maybe they were presenting it in a different way. But it is sort of sad when you feel like you can't even have those conversations. You can't have two sides on the same panel anymore. Or Jordan, go ahead.
No, I mean, this is the world we live in. I mean, you can have panels. Usually when two different sides are on panels now, though, they've got a liberal Republican agreeing with the liberal Democrat. If you're on MSNBC, on CNN, you might see a little bit of difference, but not much. And then on Fox News, it's a Democrat agreeing with Republican.
Right.
So, again, read the news. You're going to get the basic facts correct. They can't lie to you about the economy. They can't lie to you about the stock market. They can't lie to you about your inflation. They can't lie to you about the cost of gas or groceries or how our standing is in the world. Those are all or crime in your city. So look around. Just keep your eyes open. You're the best journalist. You know what's happened. You know if things are costing more, if things are feeling dangerous, and if you're not feeling safe.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up today's show by telling you to support the work of the ACLJ during this Life and Liberty Drive. There's only 3 days left. If you're brand new, I'm going to ask you, though, to subscribe or to follow if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube or on Facebook or X, however it is. Do whatever you need to do to activate this account. We do this show each and every day, so be part of it. And plus, a lot of extra content that's posted. But we are in those final 3 days. We need your support right now. Take this last 30 seconds. I'm sorry to Linda, sorry to Faye we were able to get to you today. Have your gifts doubled right now during our Life and Liberty Drive. It ends at the end of this month. So we're just a few days away. It's July 29th. So time is of the essence here, everybody. And we are a little bit behind. Support the work of the ACLJ right now. You stand with America. You stand with Israel. You support your Christian conservative values. Do it right now. Scan that QR code on the screen or make your donations directly at aclj.org. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Again, do it right now. Scan that code. Talk to you tomorrow.